Ray Kessler smelled it before he saw it. Burnt sugar, hot metal, a struck match. The car on his lift had 19,000 miles. It smelled like something raced for a season. He had smelled this a week earlier. Different car, different owner. He pressed his palm to the housing and pulled it back fast. Nothing in the service records explained the heat. Nothing in them ever would. Ray had spent most of his life inside gearboxes. He learned the trade from his father, in the same building. The sign outside still carries both their names. He trusted machines because machines never lied to him. A failing bearing sounded like a failing bearing. Oil told the truth. Metal told the truth. A worn part came out of a case and told its whole story. That was the deal. Ray kept his end of it. The dealerships had stopped rebuilding years ago. They replaced instead. Ray still opened things up. People drove past the dealership to find him. Dana Ruiz was one of them. She worked nights at the hospital. She needed a car that was boring. It had been boring. Then it began to shudder at low speed. The dealer told her the shudder was normal, a characteristic of the design. She did not know what that meant, neither did Ray. He took it around the block and felt the car hesitate, like a foot lifting off the pedal briefly without her. Then it caught and pulled clean and behaved perfectly. That was the first crack, because whatever was wrong in there had already learned to hide. Ray put Dana's car on the lift and opened the housing. The first thing he found was black dust. Not grease, not shavings, dust, fine as pepper, coating everything inside. It came off on his fingers and would not wash out. Behind the dust was a disc. One face of it was polished to a mirror. He could see the shop lights in it. He could see himself in it. A part like that is supposed to bite. A mirror does not bite anything. There was no oil on any of it, not a film. Everything inside that housing was bone dry and cooked. Ray had been rebuilding gearboxes since he was a teenager. He had never opened one that was dry inside. That afternoon, he called the manufacturer's technical line. He asked a simple question. When does this part get replaced? The man on the phone paused too long. Then he said there was no replacement interval. Ray asked why not. The line went quiet and stayed quiet. He went looking for the oil next. There was no dipstick. There was no filler cap. There was no drain plug under the pan. The case was sealed shut at the factory. The manual said the fluid was filled for the life of the vehicle. Ray read that line twice, standing in the cold. Filled for life. Nobody had written down whose life. He drilled his own hole and caught what ran out. It should have been pink. It came out the color of coffee. He let it settle in a jar under the bench lamp. The bottom of the jar went dark with glitter, metal, the same dust that had coated everything above it. It had been circulating in there for a long time, grinding. Every mile the car had been polishing itself smooth, and by design there was no way to look. Ray stood there holding a jar of a car's blood. He gave Dana her keys back. He had nothing better to tell her. Nobody ever read Ray's file, and there are more of them. Subscribe. The next thing took him longer, because it was not a thing. It was an absence. Ray hooked a scanner to a car he already knew was dying. He had driven it. He had felt it slip on a hill. The screen said the system was operating within specification. No fault, no stored code, no warning light, nothing. He drove it again with the scanner running, watching the numbers. The car slipped, adjusted itself, and tidied the reading as it went. It squeezed harder and carried on. As the part wore, the car quietly rewrote its own behavior to match. It was not measuring the damage. It was absorbing it. The dashboard would stay dark until the day it could not absorb anymore. There was no early warning because early warning had been engineered out. Ray looked at that green screen for a long time. A car cannot lie. That had always been the deal. So he sat there wondering who had taught this one to. It was raining the night Dana merged onto the interstate. Her shift had run late. Her daughter's swim bag was on the back seat. The on-ramp was short and wet and uphill. She checked her mirror, found her gap, and put the pedal down. The engine rose. The car did not. There is a particular sound a car makes when the engine climbs alone. Dana had never heard it before. She heard it for a long time. The wipers kept their rhythm. Left, right, left, right. The car was rolling. The road was moving. Nothing was connected. She remembers the wipers. She does not remember the horn. Ray's phone rang the next morning before he unlocked the shop. He was standing in the gravel with the keys in his hand. He knew what the call was before he answered it. He had handed her those keys himself. The reason was not in the gearbox. It was decided in a meeting years earlier. What Ray had opened was not really an automatic gearbox. It was a manual gearbox with machines working the pedals. 2 clutches, taking turns, shifting faster than any driver could. On paper, it was elegant, quick, efficient, cheap to build. Older designs ran their clutches in an oil bath. Oil carries heat away from metal. Oil also creates drag, and drag costs fuel economy, so the oil came out. That decision was made for a number on a window sticker, and it explains every single thing Ray found. With no oil, the heat had nowhere to go but into the metal. That is what cooked the disc into a mirror. With no oil to change, there was no service to sell, so the case was sealed and the dust stayed in there forever. The design shuddered from the first day it was driven. The software was written to cover it. The module learned around the wear and kept the dashboard dark. Every symptom, the same decision, and the engineers had known. Validation cars failed in hot weather testing before launch. The memos exist. They asked for the oil bath back. The answer came down as a cost per unit, multiplied by a production run. It was cheaper to write new software than to redesign the box, so they shipped it, then they shipped an update, then another, then another. The lawsuits came in waves, and then merged into one. Owners described the same shudder in the same words, in every state. The company answered with bulletins, reflash again, new clutch, same part number. Some cars had the whole unit replaced with the identical design. Those cars came back. Extended warranties were offered quietly, case by case. The design stayed in production while the letters went out. And here is the part that outlasts the recall. The flaw was not the failure. The flaw was known before the first car reached a dealer. Somebody tested it. Somebody wrote it up. Somebody signed the page and filed it. Everything Ray found in that housing, another engineer had already found. They found it in a lab with time. He found it in the dark under a woman who drove nights. Ray kept the mirrored disc. It sits on a shelf by his office door, catching the light. Customers think it is a trophy. He has never corrected them.